You are listening to the Ash and Man of Tomorrow podcast with special guest.
Am I supposed to say my name? Okay, I say my name. Hello, hello, hello. What is going on, people? And just back again on the Ash and Man podcast.
Man of Tomorrow, say something.
Hey, how's it going?
And I always Ash. Tonight's topics: Blu-rays, The Amazing Spiderman, and dub haters. Let's begin. First one, I guess we'll start off with The Amazing Spider-Man. What'd you guys think of it?
Pun intended, amazing.
Yeah. It's far superior than the Raimi films. When it comes to Spider-Man. Did not find a single point in the reboot that I did not like.
So you want to go around like sort of a round table thing and everybody give their thoughts on it?
Yeah, basically. We'll talk for The Amazing Spider-Man for a little bit, then we'll go on to the other two topics.
Okay, alright. So, Ash, you want to start out?
Alright, well, The Amazing Spider-Man, I've said this before and I'll say again, I'm not a Spider-Man fan at all. I don't really know anything about the character and just don't care. But in terms of being a movie, it was a good movie. They did a lot of things really well. And I did see the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, but honest to God, I just want him to go back to doing Evil Dead because that was what he was good at. This was just, those films were horrible. Well, 2 was okay, but honest to God, I like this film. I like the fact it took itself more seriously than the other Spider-Man films did. Mm-hmm. It had a better premise, and I liked the Peter Parker here better than Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire is such a hit-and-miss actor, more miss than hit. So this was the second best film I've seen this year. Secret World of Arietti still number 1, though.
Oh, I've yet to see that. I have to catch up on my Ghibli stuff. I've been lacking. I think they got a new one coming out this year, something The Poppy.
Maybe, but
Ghibli. Yep, yes they do.
Matt, tomorrow, was this your favorite film of the year, The Amazing Spider-Man?
I love the film, but I'm not going to go out and say it was my all-time favorite because I'm waiting to reserve judgment on The Dark Knight and the Bourne Legacy.
You forgot The Hobbit.
Oh yeah. My bad. Hobbit as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that film, which is going to be a two-parter.
Mm-hmm. So that.
I mean, to go into further with the reboot film, I kept track of the film news that the Spider-Man 4 was canned, which I praise Sony for doing that because there's no way on earth that you're going to have Anne Hathaway be the Voltress, a completely made-up character that wasn't even in the comics, and of course killing off Mary Jane. Yeah, that there tells you right in stone that Sam Raimi was never a real fan. I strongly believe he just used the idea that he was a fan to get his foot in the door, and then rework the mythology in the way that he wanted to. But with this film, I definitely agree that Tobey Maguire is a hit and miss. I haven't seen a lot of his work, but some films he has done, they're okay, like Seabiscuit. But with Spider-Man, it's just a one-dimensional character for him. Like with the comparison of Andrew Garfield and himself with the death of Uncle Ben. Okay, in Raimi's film, it's straightforward. You don't really see a lot of emotion on Toby's face. You see a couple of teardrops. Then you hear the cops say, well, the robber's gone down this street. Like a light switch, Toby's character, Peter, the robber. In this reboot, Andrew Garfield rushes to his uncle's side, which, for the record, we actually see Uncle Ben get shot in the Raimi film. You don't. In the reboot, I like that they really played with Peter Parker's emotion when Uncle Ben is killed. You see him having his hands over the wound, yelling for someone to call 911, and you see the grief on his face. He is torn at the idea that his uncle has been fatally shot, and this is moments after he got into a blown-out argument with his uncle over his father, who has been gone. He doesn't know where he is, if he's alive, or anything on this. But he's there. From that perspective, I liked how Andrew Garfield acted in that moment. You believe the sorrow the character is feeling, and it played on something that I totally did not see coming, which was when the death scene happened. I fully expected there to be, like I said in my review, a moment where Peter and Uncle Ben had a brief moment of a conversation of, I was like, I'm sorry for what it's apology and saying how they care about each other, but no, it didn't happen. And I somewhat like that because it hits into reality where sometimes we say things or do something that is wrong, like an argument, or you not spend time with them, and then they do that, and it's a regrettable moment. Here, you have that. He said something that he can't take back, and he has to live with that. And I enjoyed the character development with the film. With this is going to be a brief off topic, but it's somewhat related. I have to disagree, and if you've seen my review, again, you already know this. I know Neo already knows this. That Stormsink thinks that the film was mostly centered on Ultimate Spider-Man. I have to disagree. You don't see Mary Jane in the film. In the comics, she's the main love interest. Captain Stacy was killed by a robber in the comics. In this film, he's killed by the Lizard. And as for the modern aspect, which was the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, that doesn't really point to anything directly because, of course, reboots are going to be set in the current timeline, which is 2012. So it's going to be set in the year 2012 in the reboot. With the warehouse, I didn't view that as it being a direct tie to the comic book. It might have been a little nod, but the way how I viewed it was he was trying to test out his agility. If he pulled off those tricks out in the neighborhood, it would surely draw a lot of attention. Like, how is it he's able to do these amazing jumps that wouldn't be possible in reality? So, and with the last point of the Lizard being genetic, if you've read the comics, there's at least one character that is genetic, and that's the Green Goblin. He took a serum to basically transform into the Goblin. He wasn't a costume like in the classic, so that still applied to the classic universe because the Lizard was also genetic, and his mind was corrupted by the DNA and trying to where it perfect humanity by turning him into Lizard. So I'll give it over to Neo.
Okay. Yeah, more or less, I really, really did enjoy the film. I was, eagerly anticipating it, ever since they announced the series would be rebooted, 2.5 years ago. And, it is, in my opinion, nothing short of amazing. Finally, we get a Spider-Man film that is more grounded. It's more serious. It's not campy, thankfully, because that was one of my bigger complaints with the Raimi trilogy. It's that it felt too campy and too cheesy and corny at the worst of times. It's like they never took certain scenes seriously. And just in general, they really did rush a lot of things in order to get to the action. And it just felt like a camp fest, more or less. Not on the level of Batman and Robin, but it's definitely getting up there when you compare it to the comics. I liked the cast. One thing I really did enjoy is that everything is believable to some extent when it comes to the acting, when it comes to the situations that they're in. I just think that it goes hand in hand with the more grounded aspect. They're actually making you learn to love these characters, like Gwen Stacy. In every single negative review I've seen of The Amazing Spider-Man, nobody goes after Gwen because they've made her character so lovable, because we all know what happens later in the comics and they're kind of foreshadowing that. But the characters are more relatable. We can identify with them. Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker was amazing. It was literally from the comics to the screen, his mannerisms, the way he moves, the way he talks, the way he acts, the way he starts to come out of his shell. It was fantastic to see that on screen, and when Uncle Ben does die, there's so much emotion in that scene. Half my theater was crying because it's such a powerful scene, and what comes later on. I mean, there's just so much emotional depth with this movie that really alone, I think, sells the film. And yeah, they're taking their time to establish this new Spider-Man universe. I see some people are complaining that they dropped the parents aspect or the robbers aspect from the film. Mark Webb said that they are going to be they're going to be explaining things as time goes along. So within the second movie or the third movie, and they didn't forget it. At the end of the film, it does a camera pan, and you see the parents, and you see the picture of the robber on his wall. So it's still there. This is just him in his early days. It's going to lead him to something bigger eventually. But yeah, overall, just really good film. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with the sequel, because now that we've established the origin out of the way, we can do a lot more. Especially if you read later on in the comics, potential possibilities for villains, etc., etc. But yeah, great dialogue, great writing, great acting. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but have you guys been keeping up with like the trailers that they released for the movie?
You being in the theater or outside? Like on the internet.
Well, just in general, like trailers that they put out for the film. I noticed that they took a lot of stuff out of the trailer, out of the movie that was in the trailer.
Oh yeah, like the one thing that comes to my mind has to be the Kurt Connor's line. If you want the truth, come and get it.
Yeah, like all of that was taken out. Like in the trailer, you had what's his name, the Indian guy, Dr. Rafa or something. I forgot his name. Ratha, I think that's what it is. He was saying, do you think what happened to you, Peter, was an accident? And then, like, do you have any idea what you really are? I think there was there was another subplot to the movie, another sewer encounter, where the lizard had kidnapped Dr. Ratha, or Dr. Ratha found his way there, and Spider-Man goes to investigate, and the lizard kills Dr. Ratha, and then, I mean, this is just all speculation, but like there are pictures that show Dr. Ratha in the sewers with the lizard holding his neck, and in one of the trailers, it did show the lizard grabbing Dr. Ratha from the car and slightly pulling him out. So I think, I don't know, maybe this was done like at the end to kind of allude to all this stuff about the parents, but it was just kind of awkward to see it gone. I mean, it was like such a big thing in the trailer. It's like, oh my god, the parents, and then Kurt Connors must know something about it, and he's going crazy, so he's going to start saying all this stuff, but it's just gone, and I'm like, hot damn. But maybe they're saving that for the director's cut on Blu-ray, which if they do, I'm going to be pretty pissed off. But yeah, that's pretty much what I think about the movie.
You mentioned in the comment page on my review, speculation Massey's character was in the shadows near the end of the film. I don't know much about that character. Can you elaborate?
Oh, yeah. Well, without giving too much detail away, because I would go on for days about this, but there are rumors going around the internet that the person who appeared at the end of the film who said, "Did you tell the boy about his father?" People think that might be Norman Osborn, simply because they'd mentioned him a couple times in the film and he was dying, so that's why, the way he moved his hands, it kind of looked sickly. But I personally don't think it's Norman Osborn or Otto Octavius. I think it might be Mendel Stromm, who was in the comics. He was in a relationship with Norman Osborn. They had a partnership. He was actually his mentor, and he had some relevance in Oscorp. He was actually in the first Spider-Man movie, which I really don't remember much. I just knew he was there. But yeah, he is very old. He's kind of sickly. And if it is indeed Mendel Stromm, then that would give them a reason to introduce Mysterio into the movie franchise, because Mysterio plays a part.